the HomeTech Podcast for Friday, March 18th. From Sarasota, Florida, I'm Seth Johnson.
From Powell, Ohio, I'm TJ Huddleston.
And from Pickering, Ontario, I'm Gavin Campbell.
And welcome to the HomeTech Podcast, a podcast about all aspects of home technology and home automation. So we got a couple of new products that have come across our, in the news cycle. It's kind of nice to get some new things coming in, but got a funny pick of the week too. Courtesy of Gavin. I don't really know what to say about that. But hey, I see here you got like a shout out you wanted to give to someone about some support. It's always good to acknowledge good support when you get it.
Oh yeah, like in the last few weeks, I've converted you guys all over to Unraid. I'm a big Unraid user. We're all big Unraid users now. On the weekend, I accidentally broke my Unraid key. Emailed support, you get the standard 3 days, expect a response in 3 days. For this time I was down and my whole house runs off of it. Within the hour, they actually responded on a weekend, responded with a new key, everything. I was back up and running. Like when you have good support like that, you have to acknowledge it, and really appreciate it.
Nice. Yeah, you've cost TJ and I some money that we probably would not have spent.
I've spent so much on my Unraid, but you know what? You appreciate it afterwards, like it's not something that you regret. I've never regretted. I have to buy some new hard drives now that I think about it.
Yeah, my server game has really been upped ever since I moved to Unraid. So thanks for making that recommendation. We currently have over 30 terabytes going.
Jeez.
With Unraid, over 7 hard drives.
Wow.
And no problems with any of it. It all works every single time. Some hardware hiccups that I've worked on over the past couple months and stuff like that, but software has been rock solid. So definitely worth checking out if you're looking for a NAS software or some kind of a backup software.
Yeah, it's a little different than it has RAID in the name, right? Because everybody, not everybody may be familiar with RAID. But RAID basically allows you to use a bunch of hard drives. It's either one hard drive or one hard drive backing up another hard drive, or one hard drive backing up many hard drives. It's just a way of getting a bunch of disk drives in a computer to do something special, I guess. And Unraid makes it particularly easy to get that going, first of all, but then also like add on little programs and apps and that kind of thing. They did a pretty good job of putting that together. So Gavin turned us onto it, and I have slowly started moving stuff that I was running on my computer over to Unraid, and kind of doing like my networking shares, like NAS drive and that kind of thing. Plex servers can be built on it. So yeah, why not? I have 6 terabytes. I'm a little bit behind.
I'm at the 12 terabyte mark.
No, wait, I'm at 3 terabytes.
We got to spend some money, Seth.
Well, the problem is I have this server. Well, okay. The problem is I have the server here, and it's only it only has the 6 bays, but they're the small format drives. They're not the big drives that you can get. So those I don't think you can even get over a terabyte. Or maybe if you can, they're super expensive, and I don't want to go down that road.
I just found one for you. Here we go. You're gonna spend some money. I'll send you the link later.
You just have to fill it up with solid states at this point.
That's what I've got. I've got 3 solid state terabyte drives in there, so that's fine. I got 4 actually, but I do have it a way that in Unraid you can actually mount to like a Synology drive, like a shared folder. So I have a Synology system set up that has 20 terabytes. So I guess technically that is where I'm saving most everything at this point. So yay.
Yeah, I think at this point I can't upgrade any more hard drives unless I upgrade to like a 16 terabyte or something. My the largest hard drive I have right now is an 8 terabyte, and that's what my Parity drive is. So if I add another large drive, I basically have to buy 2 of them. So next upgrade will be a big investment there.
And I'll say it again, you guys need to learn how to delete. That's all I have to say.
There's no such thing as deleting.
That's the problem.
I don't know what deleting is.
Can't do it. Sorry.
What happens if I want to watch the same thing 3 years from now and I can't find it anymore?
Yeah.
Then watch something else.
I can't. I know if I have something saved and it's there, I can't lose it. But like I've gone through and looked for pictures. Like there are these pictures that I know I have because I've never deleted them, but they were on a camera that came back with my wife and her sister from some trip that they took, and they handed me the camera and said, "Back this up," and I backed it up, and the camera has been lost. The pictures have been lost, but I know that I saved them somewhere, but I can't find them. So
one of the powers of Unraid is loading Dockers, and you can get a Docker for photo management. So there's one called Pawigo, and it creates a nice little interface. It has an app. Your family can access it. You can do searching, stuff like that. So you got to up your Docker game at this point now for hosting things.
Yeah.
That is way too much effort. Just get Google Photos.
Google Photos. Yeah. Well, so since then, this was probably like 2009, 2006, so way back in the day before, pre-iPhone. But ever since I've had an iPhone, everything is recorded at that point. So like I don't even worry about it. I just here, Apple, I'll pay you money and you manage that. And that, honestly, that's 99% of what I need to worry about is taken care of that way. And anyway, we got a couple of pieces of follow up here. Or actually, did you guys? We put the call out in kind of a joke last week to finish up the after party for our homework. And TJ, I think you finished, right?
Yep, we finished it this weekend. I gotta say, I really enjoyed all the AV references throughout the show. I think it really did a good job of demonstrating our field. And I don't think I've ever watched the show and like saw the technical parts of it and didn't think it was awful. Most of the time, whenever somebody does technology stuff in shows or movies, it's like completely off. Or like, somebody's like trying to like pick a lock and it takes them 3 seconds to do it. So a lot of the stuff in the show in regards to the AV, the home automation, all that good stuff was very accurate. So whoever did that, great job.
Yeah, you're right. That it wasn't like a CSI level of idiocy there. Like there was idiocy. Don't get me wrong. Like it was just a silly comedy, but like the characters could be dumb, but the technology was spot on, and the interactions that people have are interactions that I've had in my own life. Maybe even this week, between my wife and talking about why is the TV not working? Oh, I guess I forgot to turn the Plex server back on. Whoops, sorry. So that kind of stuff is that part of it was a lot more accurate than I think most people give it credit for. Did not get very good reviews in the hub. There were a couple of reviews saying that people bailed on the second or third episode or something like that, which I understand. It's a slow burn. I think eventually it does pay off, especially that last episode. And I just want to wish Walt a happy birthday.
Yes,
my man. All right, guys. Also, some homework that TJ, I think you gave us last week was to listen to this Sonos podcast. It was a podcast and an article, I guess. I guess I could have read it rather than listening to the podcast about how Google and Sonos got into this, brawl, and then how Sonos in particular decided to sue Google for patent infringement starting back in 2020. They've actually won the first couple of rounds of that patent infringement case. And I think it basically puts pressure on Google at this point to come to the table and make a deal with them. I hate to call Sonos the little guy, right? But in this case, they are. Like, they're a $2 billion company. I don't think of a Sonos as a little guy, but when you compare them to a company like Google or Alphabet or whatever you want to call them, like they're tiny. There's no comparison to what I think the CEO there said that there was 1,000 people that work there or something like that. Like he knew like down, it was funny. He knew like down to the like single digit number of how many people worked at Sonos on the dime. So I don't think Google could ever, the CEO of Google would ever be able to tell you at any given moment how many exactly the how many employees worked at Google. That doesn't happen. So I guess they are a smaller company in that respect, but it was interesting. Is Patrick Spence and Eddie? I didn't see his name here, but Eddie is the Lazarus. He's the chief legal officer. So Patrick Spence, the CEO. Pretty good discussion. Is a bit businessy, TJ. Like not really tech related, but kind of interesting. What did you take away from it?
Yeah, there was a couple good things that I thought that I came across. So it looks like they have 1,719 employees. And he spouted that right off the bat, which was pretty interesting.
I thought that was impressive. I mean, it was a good showing. Yeah,
absolutely, especially for that many people. Another interesting thing is he pointed out how much Google actually spends on lobbying. And in 2021, they only spent $9.6 million, which doesn't seem like a lot to me. Like, obviously, that's a ton of money and everything, but you would think somebody of Google's size would spend more on that. So I found that kind of low and all that. One of the interesting comments that they brought out, though, is Nilay Patel, the Verge editor who is interviewing him. He says, obviously, you're suing Google. We talked a little bit about partnerships and how you need them. How has this litigation affected your relationship with Google? Has it strained it? Has it made it better? Is that siloed, and how does that work? And Patrick Spence says, it's pretty siloed from their side. YouTube Music continues to go along. We continue to have Google Assistant. I think they know, obviously, with us testifying in Congress and Congress being very supportive of us, making sure that there's no retaliation for doing that they've been on their best behavior as well. So just some interesting tidbits in there that kind of give you the backstory on how they decided to sue Google and why they decided to. And also, the last thing I want to point out about this is that they actually brought up headphones. Nilay asked if they were going to bring out headphones, and Patrick Spence said, "We are so excited about a roadmap, and I can't wait to talk to you about it."
Yeah, that was mostly a joke at the end. Like, he wasn't having any of that. It was hilarious. But he also asked him about, like, Apple, what was it, Apple Music or something integration or something like that, and he said, we're really excited about that. And same answer. It was really funny. But I will say one of the takeaways I got from this was Patrick Spence is he was the CEO, or not CEO, CFO before he was kind of promoted into the CEO role, and he's a bit more of a geek than I would have expected him to be. So I was kind of happy to see that. I thought he was just the numbers guy, and some of the stuff he's done at Sonos has been, to me, purely number based. Like, there were a lot of layoffs. There's kind of some trickery played, like some acquisition stuff that's happened. It's like all smart business stuff, but not really tech related. He did mention that they bring out 2 products. They strive to bring out 2 new products every year. And I was like, really? I mean, usually Sonos is, to me, it's asleep at the wheel on what they're doing. But technically, I guess if you consider like their music products that they've brought to the table, that kind of stuff, yeah, they've made efforts in getting, like, the Roam has come out and they have the various revisions of kind of the same product. So technically, yes, 2 new products every year. It's pretty good thing to strive for. I think one of the biggest thing I took away from it was when it came to them making the decision to sue Google, and this goes to me. This tells you how big of companies I normally work in. Like, it wasn't like really his decision. Like, he kind of knew he was in the right, and Eddie Lazarus kind of was like, yeah, we were in the right. They stole our property. They were using hundreds of our patents in their own products and marketing it and admitting to it. But it's not like Patrick Spence and Eddie Lazarus can go and just file that lawsuit. No, there's a board involved. And it's like, oh yeah, I forget these companies have these big boards of, people on them that probably are like risk averse to this kind of thing in the first place. And just kind of him mentioning that, and like, if it was my company, the company I work in now, like, we're pretty small, it would just be, go off and sue something. But like this is a little bit bigger, $2 billion company. The decisions aren't necessarily made by 1 or 2 people. It's made by a pretty big collective. So I thought that just kind of reminded me. I thought that was pretty interesting how that particular thing works. Gavin, I know you fell asleep to this. What?
No, I paid attention. I made it to the end. While listening to it, I found like the questions were very specific. He was very open about a lot of stuff. And I was thinking through this interview, I'm like, this lawyer must be like cringing like that. If he says the wrong thing, it could cause him so much work. And they actually addressed that at the end, as a joke, how the lawyer, had a tough time with this interview. But it was very good to hear him being so open. And I've seen this before, some companies are so big, you could be suing one part of them and doing business with another part of them. And they don't hold it against you because they're taking the money back in another form and giving it to you. You know, it's just such a big company. That's the way it is. So it was a good interview. They covered a lot, and I just loved how open they were about it.
Yeah, I agree. I agree that it was for a lawyer, he wasn't that bad. And I don't think they covered they didn't go into they avoided the sharp edges, so to speak, and they weren't.
Yes.
They did not go into very many details as far as the legal and the lawsuit stuff would have gone. I think that probably was outlined very well for the Verge editor here to go down the road, and he did a good job interviewing, at least for what he'd be able to pull out of them with a lawyer present, because that's not easy. One other big piece of follow up that we have here. Last week we talked a little bit about how to pre-wire for some shades, and I kind of rambled on a little bit about how I used to do it, either using Cat5 or speaker wire, like 16.4. Typically, the 16.4 would be for the low voltage stuff, so you can get 2 or 4 conductor getting there, and then the Cat5 would have been for control. Depending on the size shade you need. But one of our listeners in the hub, James Riley came up and made a pretty good suggestion. You put this in here, so I'm going to let you take over and talk about this wire that he suggested we use.
Yeah, this is actually pretty cool. I don't think I've ever seen this Somfy wire, but it's basically a Somfy low voltage power and data cable. It looks like it has a black and a red for power, and then it's got 3 other wires for control, and then a drain wire. So this looks like it would cover a large amount of shades, no matter the brand you have. I think the only complication, we talked about a little earlier before the podcast, was if you have a heavier shade or something that requires more power, you're still going to need an AC outlet. But this would handle, I would think, Lutron shades and obviously Somfy shades and that kind of thing. I don't know pricing on it, and I don't know if the regular consumer can get access to it. But this is a great product that I'm definitely adding to my tool bag.
Yeah, it's your standard bundle cable, so to speak. It's got some, looks like what to be 2 or 3. Oh, here it is. Red and black wire for power. There you go. A brown for the RS-45 ground. Orange white for the positive side of RS-45. And the orange for RS-45. And then there's a silver drain wire that you can attach at one end, not both, to make sure that any electrical interference that this thing may come into contact with over the width or the span of it gets drained on one side. So that's kind of a nice piece of equipment. It's there's 2 models numbers, actually, non-plenum rated and plenum rated. So looks like Somfy is huge in commercial. It's huge overseas. So I can't imagine they wouldn't have a bundled cable like this. I'm sure there's plenty of other 5 conductor cable out there that you could use in lieu of this. But this is actually a decent, looks to be a decent product. So I agree. Look this up if you're doing shades. Yeah, pop this stuff in. It could be a lifesaver. What do you guys say we jump into some HomeTech headlines?
Let's do it.
Well, according to the Ambient, only 18 months after Z-Wave Long Range was announced, we are now getting the first certified device, the EcoLink 700 series garage door controller. It's gone live. The Z-Wave LR promises up to 4 times the wireless range compared to regular Z-Wave signals. Certification means that people could potentially have Z-Wave devices up to 400 meters or about a quarter of a mile apart, with no need for repeaters in between. Gavin, you tossed this up into the board. What do you think about this? What's going on?
No, it's good to see some movement. It's good to be talking about Z-Wave in this way. This was actually, on my hub of choice, my Habitat, they actually talked about this in the forums in January of 2021, where they mentioned that, the latest version of the hub can support it, but they will need a firmware update and they're working on it. They didn't give exact dates when they would release it, but it's good to see that devices are finally coming out. It's been a long time. It seems like, was it 18 months or something like that since they announced it? The good thing about it is it works on a hub and spoke type of model where it's everything will just communicate directly with the controller because it has that range. But it's also backward compatible with the existing Z-Wave mesh if it has to be, right? So I'm looking forward to it to see, it will solve some problems. I see it more in the industrial space with larger deployments. I see it when somebody has a mailbox at the end of their driveway that they want to get, a status from. I could see them using it there. You always hear people asking for solutions for that, and their mailbox is usually too far. This would solve that. So I can't wait for this to actually come out. I think a lot of people would enjoy it.
Yeah, this is the perfect device for the long range, application for Z-Wave too. A garage door controller, realistically is further away from a lot of other devices. And usually we use Wi-Fi garage door controllers just because Wi-Fi is pretty much everywhere at that point. So it's good to see that a garage door controller is getting a long range Wi-Fi or Z-Wave chip in it.
Yeah, maybe have like dual use, like as a gate controller too. I don't know. You might be able to. It seems like it's got a sensor and a relay on it, kind of the same thing. Yeah, you might be able to use it to open and control a gate that's a quarter mile away or whatever. I can't imagine opening my garage door while I was a quarter mile away, but there you go. You can do it now.
One thing that's cool about this too is I didn't realize that Z-Wave long range actually increases the nodes from 232 to over 4,000. So that's a huge upgrade for Z-Wave, and hopefully we start to see that rolling out a little faster.
Got 4,000 garage doors. This would be perfect for it. All right, guys. Well, we got a couple of new other new products here to talk about tonight. First up, IKEA. It could be another option on the HomeKit front for blinds. IKEA's first smart shades released back in 2019, featuring roller-based design. It was the Future and the Cadre. I can't pronounce any IKEA names. I just look at them. Anyway, those were kind of met with mixed reviews during the initial launch. Kind of had a bunch of delays. We kind of like saw them roll out really slowly. There were shortages. There were missed deadlines on adding that HomeKit compatibility into their app, and everything is kind of a mess. But since then, I think they've kind of gotten better reviews and people kind of like them now. I'm not too sure. But IKEA is now expanding that lineup with two new options. Oh, gosh. The Practilising and the I give up. Tredizen. All right. Anyway, there's one that starts with a P and one that starts with a T. These new smart blinds have not been officially announced, but they show up in international versions of IKEA's website and was spotted, of course, by Dave Zatz over on Twitter. So let's start up with the Tredsden. Whatever blinds. Yeah, these are smart blinds. They're folding blinds design. Look pretty good. Got a couple of pictures on their website that we found this on. Come in sizing options of 120 by 195 centimeters and 140 by 195 centimeters, and have a darkening style blackout material. Those run around €150 or about $163. And there's the P1 Practilising smart blinds. Okay. These are the roller blind designed, and they're available in two sizes, 120 by 195 centimeters and 140 by 195 centimeters. And these look like much higher end versions of the offerings that IKEA already has in the roller blinds. And these will start at about $140 or €125. Interesting stuff here. Gavin, I know you have some smart shades. We were just talking about them before the show. These prices are just crazy when I look at them, like to see smart shades and smart blinds at this price point.
Yeah, I actually have a set of IKEA blinds too, and I like them. They run on Zigbee. They pair directly with the hub. They work great. My only gripe was I find their battery I'm charging it maybe 2 or 3 times a year. And I don't even use it that much. It's in a bathroom. So, like it's not like I'm using it many times a day. But they work great when they're working. And it's good to see them innovating on this, as long as they follow the same Zigbee standards and make it work with everything. I'm all for it.
This is the stuff I get excited about just because of how inexpensive it is compared to like the professional or the other options that are out there. I looking at the website right now, and the most expensive one it looks like they have is $180.
Yep.
Which is nothing in Shade's world. So I haven't personally used these yet, but they've been on my watch list for quite a while now.
The one thing about them is you're stuck with the sizes they give you too, right? So they're very limited. You don't have a choice of custom sizes. So some people have gotten crafty and actually, bought them, cut them down to what they needed. So it's a possibility if you're willing to do that.
That's interesting. I didn't know you could cut them down the way they were built and designed, but I guess if you're crafty enough, you can well, anything can be cut down, I suppose, if you're crafty enough. So that's interesting. The price is definitely right. I mean, I know some shades I've bought that $180 would probably cover the brackets that held them up. So yeah, that's pretty inexpensive. All right. So one other thing in the new products that were came out this week in a virtual partner summit, Snap One reviewed some of the highlights of 2021 and unveiled a bunch of new products across the control, audio, and remote monitoring categories. I guess remote monitoring, oversee remote monitoring and Control 4. This has been announced before. Snap AV really just likes to remind people that oversee exists. I mean, in case you forgot, like they really want you to know. So they kind of reminded everybody that Control 4 now can be kind of like the oversee hub, I guess. Like it's a computer, so they let you run that controller software on the Control 4 controller. It makes sense. So not a new thing, but they just kind of reminded everybody that it was a new thing, I guess, that happened within the last 12 months. But one of the big announcements from Control 4, actually a couple of them, they're going to be launching Control 4 OS 3.3.0, so 3.3.0. They've got a bunch of new features in here, including the ability like for the apps to connect faster remotely. And that also includes for dealers. Like if you're a dealer, you can dial in and fix somebody's system. That's a lot faster now. So that's kind of nice. One of the big features here is in the UI. This is something I've been kind of working on for a while. You can do lighting, like color changes with the lighting. Like that in the past with Control 4, what you would have to do is if you had a red, green, blue light, let's just leave it at that and keep it simple. You would have to have four different sliders inside of your interface. One for red, one for green, one for blue, and then one for the brightness of that fixture. Or that light bulb, if it was Philips Hue or whatever. So you would individually adjust those things. And there were all sorts of like hacks in different ways that people attempted to use, like the camera proxy to display a static image of a color wheel, and where you tapped on the color wheel would actually send the PTZ commands down and they would map that specific thing. Yeah, it was just janky. It was really janky. So Control 4 is finally built. I mean, when was Philips Hue introduced? Like 2010, 2012, somewhere there. Like finally we have a native interface inside the Control 4 app and the touchscreen interfaces where you can go in and kind of relatively quickly adjust color and temperature of products that actually support that. So that's kind of nice. I see TJ kind of laughing there. It's been a while. It's amazing how long it takes some of these things to get rolled out.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like when you look at some of the professional stuff that's out there, how it doesn't really come along until a consumer-based product comes out and kind of pushes them towards that. A good example of this is security cameras. Security cameras have been really awful for like all of my life. And they just started in like the last like year or two actually adding like motion alerts and other, what I consider basic necessities at this point. Things that like Ring and Nest and everybody else has. I always find it fascinating how far behind a lot of this professional gear is. Especially for something simple like color changing for lights.
You would think that would be just built in, like it's part of the thing. No, that I just talked about like RGB lights. What if you had RGBW lights or RGBWW lights? Like you're talking 6 sliders just to control one fixture in your house, and now you've got maybe 10 fixtures in your house. That's 6 times 10 different little sliders that are on the interface that you have to scroll through to find the exact red that you want to control. Oh, what a mess. But I'm glad that they've updated this and have given everyone the ability to get in there and move this around faster. It also says dealers can create color presets, and end users can personalize those presets and include them in the like lighting scenes. So I guess if you had the need for that, it's built in right there. They also announced support for the circadian rhythm type lighting control, where you can change the mood of the room and the color of the room using kind of an app or touchscreen as well. So that's built into this as well. Control 4, sometime after about the time that Snap AV did purchase them, one of their project managers reached out and was asking us, what we'd like to see in a new lighting control proxy, so to speak, and a lot of these features were definitely something we mentioned. So I'm glad to see it it finally get implemented and rolled out to dealers so they can improve their projects. And it's really nice. It's nice to have new things. And I think this is kind of one of the bigger things that they announced. They did release some Control4 Core Series controllers. They just boast faster processors. It's kind of like a refresh of the EA lineup. So you have the EA 1, 3, and 5. And 1, 3, and 5 basically go up in like how big the house is and also price. So these just have it's kind of like a refresh, faster processors. It's got 4K output for the interface and everything on there. It has a higher quality digital analog converters that can come with that as well. So these are nice. I did notice one thing that these on the spec sheets on their website. I don't know if these are released yet or not, but I'll go ahead and say it. There was like the Zigbee, not Zigbee, the Z-Wave 700 chip is built into these as well. So that's kind of interesting. I mean, you could always have gotten that as like the extra dongle to support Z-Wave, but I did find it interesting that it was built in now, like directly into the controller. So there's not anybody who is integrating with those Z-Wave devices. And I'm not too terribly sure like who it was for. I think it's for like those larger like builder projects where they may have like a lock company that's not a I'm getting mixed up. Z-Wave property. It's, the like Slade or something like that doesn't have any Zigbee type devices. They could just go over and use Z-Wave, which is like, Gavin says, it's pretty ubiquitous. So kind of nice to see. Anybody want to take anything of that? Okay. And one of the things I did notice is that they also revealed this thing called Riff, RYFF. It's a high resolution audio platform. And it's going to provide 24-bit 192 kilohertz decoding, network-based audio synchronization, and fine-tuning controls like crossover, control delays, all that good stuff. Supports 12 streaming services, including Spotify and Tidal. So that's kind of nice. Like it'll probably come along with those new controllers that you'll be able to get that. It's always nice to have better streaming music options in this day and age.
They stress the quality of the streaming with that, right? So are they pulling it from Tidal and Spotify at higher quality and giving it to you at that quality? Is that how it's working?
Yeah, I mean that's that higher quality like subscriptions have been kind of, or price differentiating things. Those have been like pushed over the last couple of years by all these streaming companies. So I think it's just kind of Control4 saying, yeah, we're caught up to that. We can support the high and quite frankly, like I one of the things I can't stand is like the lower quality stuff that you get off of like SiriusXM, like that. It's really bad. I don't know how anybody can listen to that. I get that it's background music, but man, it's just painful. But when you get to some of the higher bit rates, and I mean, even Spotify and the MP3s and even what they're doing now, like it's pretty flawless, but people really like to have those big numbers on there. And it's always good to have bigger numbers because that's what this entire industry seems to be about. Speaking of speakers, episode is going to launch a 2.1 active soundbar with a wireless subwoofer, and it's going to be bundled together. It's kind of interesting. Let's see. Active soundbar will include an optical analog HDMI inputs, and will come prepared to they'll come prepared to kind of limit the hassle with the installation of them. It's got Bluetooth built in for music integration from mobile devices and an IR remote. The 8-inch downfiring subwoofer is 80 watts and can be placed anywhere within 30 feet of the soundbar. So, not very exciting, but honestly, it's a good problem solver, right? Depending on the price point that comes in as, like, you want to have one of these type systems on every TV in your house at a minimum, I would think, because TV speakers are awful. And depending on how much that is, like if it just works standalone, I would just simply just pair it with the TV that's in there. And if it's, price competitive with like maybe a Sonos soundbar or something like that, I'd pop this in instead, especially if it's a guest room or something like that. Not a bad thing.
Would you be a buyer at $500, Seth?
That's pushing it, right? I don't know.
That's the MSRP on it.
Oh, well, MSRP and Snap AV is that's the Snap AV MSRP.
But yeah, the installer's not going to make a ton of money on it. But when the customers are always looking at sound bars, and especially like the Samsung package deals or the Sony package deals. So this is a great alternative for the installer just to put that in instead. And Episode's a relatively good brand. I wouldn't say they're high end or anything amazing, but they're pretty good. They make a wide range of audio products that kind of solve whole house audio for the most part. So I wouldn't say this would be a bad product or anything like that.
No, I wouldn't either. I think at 500, it's probably on the high side. But what I think this solves is, the control thing. Like, Episode's not going to put something out that can't be controlled. And if I go to my LG one in the bedroom that I have integrated with my TV, and the TV is an LG and the stupid soundbar is an LG, and I literally, if I push the button, the volume up and down, it gives me the volume on the TV screen, but it will not turn down the volume on the LG soundbar until I hit pause and play again. No idea why. It should all work together. It's got its own connected protocol that it works. But so that's the kind of like silly little things that, as an integrator, I would buy an LG TV, I would buy an LG soundbar, I would install them, expecting them to work together, and then run into some little side case like this that'll never get fixed because it's LG. But instead of having to deal with all that hassle, we'll just get this Episode thing. I know it can be controlled. Call it a day. Bob's your uncle. You can get onto the next install. So that's where those types of products really fall in and really, really help get jobs done out there. Triad PDX architectural speakers will be available in Q2, and they have this push lock technology that allows for you to quickly and easily install them. So these are the in-ceiling type speakers you've got holes in your ceilings for. And then they have a premium PDX series that will include 8 in-ceiling speakers and 3 in-wall speakers with 3 different performance levels designed to satisfy the listening needs of any customer. So yeah, there you go. Episode, kind of like you said, not really the lower end. They actually do have some decent sounding transducers there, I guess. But Triad is definitely the more like high end brand, known name type thing. And they are coming out with a new line here. So that's kind of exciting.
The only thing that I care about on that is the push lock technology. Rust Sound has something similar that I don't know what the name is, but that makes it super easy to install speakers. And if you've ever worked with somebody that uses an impact driver on speakers, this is like a lifesaver because you can take their drill away from them and just have them install the speakers. It just makes it super easy to get in and out. So that's a welcome addition.
And it's good to see you guys have to deal with stupid products too every now and then. Like it's not just me that's banging my head, but even in your space, like you said, if something works, you just want it to put it in and walk away. If something gives you problems, you probably will never want to install it again.
Yep, exactly. Like I will never recommend an LG soundbar from my own experience. Like it should work. It just doesn't work. Yeah, there you go.
Every integrator has one brand that they would rather die or go out of business than work with again.
Mine, and you guys are going to laugh, mine is Logitech Harmony.
I love my Harmony. Why?
I know, but I literally started my career installing those things and managing different passwords and all this stuff just to keep, when you started, you had to have like an email and a password for every single one you set up or something like that, or you had to go and reset it by telling it what model the TV was or something. And it was just a pain. And then I had these slew of them that had like the bad the bad screens on them, or the base wouldn't pair with the remote correctly. And I probably installed 70 of them, and I would say every one of them came back. And that would do it for a lot of people. That's the end of the line. That was the end of the line for me. Like every time I had to go deal with a Harmony, I was just like, no, can I just install a URC remote or like Control 4 remote? When you have to deal with one and it gives you problems every now and then, that's not. If you have to deal with like 80 of them and every one of them gives you a problem.
Yeah, I only deal with 5, so they don't give me problems though.
And the way the installers would install this, if you don't remember, the stupid base station had a plug like that was physically attached to the base station with the little IR wire. So you would have to install that, and you'd have to go into the cabinet and plug it in to get it to work, to put it back where it's supposed to be. And a lot of times the installers would put that cable down. And I mean, it was just almost impossible to get stuff out without pulling the whole rack, or pulling all the equipment apart just to get to the it was a nightmare. I'm having like PTSD thinking about this, so I'm going to move on. So, all right. I could go on and on. I'm sure they're better now. Eventually they did think, like, there was a time where they, like, the power cable, you could disconnect that too. Like, you could disconnect the power cable off the base, and then you could take things. It took them years to get to that point, but eventually they did do that. All right. TP-Link routers. Oh man. So for several years, networking equipment company TP-Link has partnered with a company called Avira, and to help secure products such as their Wi-Fi routers. These are two products Avira offers: Home Care and Home Shield. Are features that are there to protect users from cyber attacks and other threats. But it seems the company's cooperation involved the transfer of user data over to Avira as well. So a Reddit user noticed in the span of 24 hours, his TP-Link Archer AX3000 router transmitted more than 80,000 requests over to the Avira servers. Now, that may not be the bad of a thing. Like, you would expect the security thing to be like cross-checking and making sure that what you're doing online is safe, if that's what you're doing. But here's the thing. Like, Avira claims that you can control the devices, what devices and what data gets transferred over to the service. But it turns out the service continues to work. Like, if you don't even have the subscription to this Avira service, it works. And it even works if you do have the subscription and turn it off. Like, if you completely go in and disable it, no, it still transfers all that information. So the safe things thing that they have is a cloud cyber threat thing that evaluates the traffic you're going to. Like, it's watching where you go, and interacts kind of with the home router to help you avoid getting onto a site that may have a virus or something on it like that. For its part, TP-Link says the network activities, all those network activity is due to the Avira cloud database, distinguishing whether the network request is a secure or part of a malware network. Firmware update is in process that will turn off this functionality if you want, but there's no ETA or estimated timeline on this at all. So, Gavin, you and I were talking about this before the show. This is incredible. This is like, turn off the feature? No, we want to know where you're going and watch we still want to know.
And the amount of data they gather is just ridiculous from all the routers, all the requests, everything you do, they're gathering it. And, like, as routers put in more AI features, they have to send the data back to analyze to be able to, figure out what's good, what's bad, or even to tell you what's good or bad. That's just the way it is now. And when you buying a company, you have to trust that company is doing the right thing with your data, because this is the link from you to the rest of the world. They're getting everything that you're browsing, any dirty little secret out there, they'll probably see it, right? So you really have to trust it. Eero does it. A lot of routers do it. But the key thing here is, even if you turned it off, it was still doing it. So you're thinking nothing's going out there, but it was still doing it. And that's not good. And the only reason they're this is out there is they got caught. They're going to make a firmware update. They got caught, but I could see it being a class action lawsuit at some point, possibly. Who knows where it will go. But I hate the fact that you have to wait till they get caught, because there's nothing watching these routers. They're the last piece in the chain, right? So this guy found it out because he put it behind another router that was monitoring it. So it's just, it's a mess. I don't know who else is doing something like this. We won't know. I hope people are investigating it, though.
Yeah, this is not a good sign. I've been I like TP-Link for the very simple networking devices like network switches or PoE switches, that kind of thing. But I've been recently checking out their Omada lineup, which looks like it kind of rivals, Ubiquiti's Unify lineup. And they're way less expensive compared to Unify. And they have a lot of the same functionalities and stuff like that. So I've been checking it out. This is not a good look for our company to adopt this new company if they're just going to ignore these kind of safety standards like that. And I guess I shouldn't say anything too far because we're still using Unify after the huge data breach last year. But I'm not going to switch to this other company who definitely doesn't care about security. So hopefully they get it fixed.
Yeah, and that's kind of like, look, all of these products that we talked about tonight, like every one of them could have a security, issue with it, right? And that doesn't matter. Like people make these products, right? Like people make mistakes, all right? But it's how the company responds to those mistakes. It's how the company says, we're going to fix this. We're going to roll out an update. With the Ubiquiti breach, that was a breach. And it turns out it was like their main security guy that did it. Also, the company didn't have very good security practices at the time, but now I'm sure that they have learned from those mistakes and, it's a better company now. Like it better be. Like it's insane that they had their entire hardware encryption keys in a GitHub repository that the entire company had access to. That makes no sense. But there you go. Ubiquiti, great company there. Hopefully that practice is ended and they're able to roll out different hardware encryption keys for new products. Wow. And amazing. Anyway, this thing, if TP-Link updates this within the next couple of days, that would be good. If they drag their feet on it and let it go in a month or two, that's not a good sign. Because what it means to me is, Gavin, you're right. They see everything that you go to. This is how those companies know. This is people want to know how companies freak out. People like, oh, my Amazon thing's listening to me all the time because it knows that I was thinking about churros. No. You weren't. It's smart enough to watch everything that you do online. It's smart enough to know who is in your house and what they're doing and aggregate all that data. And this feeds into that aggregation process. This is literally everything that you are doing online is being sold somewhere, and that's what I see out of it. But they could fix this. I could be wrong. They could fix it. You guys are shaking your head like, I don't trust TP-Link.
Yeah, well, when people have the tinfoil hat and they're like, I don't want any of the smart speakers, they're listening to me. I'm like, you don't realize everything's listening to you. Like they're not, if they don't get you through that, they're getting it through your Google phone, they're getting you through, like your router now. I would be surprised if ISPs are monitoring some data.
That's what I was going to go with this. They're absolutely monitoring, especially here in the States. Comcast takes every bit of your data and sells it to third-party brokers.
Exactly.
Absolutely, because they make money off that. They don't have to. Your internet, they can lower your internet bill. Who cares? They're making more money off of you selling your advertising stuff off to you to these third-party data brokers in bulk. Like
there's no privacy.
No, absolutely not. They see every bit that goes over the line. That's not encrypted.
And a couple carriers here have actually gotten in trouble for that. I know Verizon's pretty infamous about asking you to opt out of things and not actually opting you out of it. So it's definitely already happening to everybody, I would assume.
Well, I hope that TP-Link does the right thing here and actually releases a firmware update for what is potentially a pretty big security hole. And definitely, it's got to be some kind of legal issue with them, throwing out personalized data to some like third-party broker that you're not actually, agreeing to or agreeing to service terms on. But who knows? Maybe it's in their, their terms of service when you sign into the router for the first time and set it up, saying, I'll agree that you can share all my data with this third-party person. Who knows? Anyway. Not a good look, TP-Link. Get it fixed, guys. All the links and topics that we've talked about tonight can be found on our show notes over at HomeTech.fm/380. All right, on to fun things. We've got a huge pick of the week here. We've got Gavin. I really don't even know what to think about this. This is this is brilliant. This is brilliant. This is automation at its finest. And I'm doing the chef's kiss thing. There we go.
Sometimes I look at things and I'm like, why would you do this? But you have to sometimes just admire the fact that they were able to do this. And in this week's pick of the week, it was a Toto toilet that somebody modified with a Switchbot to flush on command, so it can be controlled with the A lady. It could control with Google.
This doesn't have to be a Toto toilet. It could be any toilet. This is just a Switchbot strapped with zip ties to a few sticks holding it into the basin to where it doesn't get wet, with a chain going down to the plunger, and it just rips it up like that. Brilliant.
It is brilliant. and the part that I really enjoyed was how hacked together the solution. It's being held by two sticks across the top. It's just a nail through the Switchbot that's holding a little wire. And the kicker to me is I love this about this solution is the handle on the toilet still works as expect. That's a perfect design right there. I mean, I don't know if it will last. I see things rusting out over time or, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But you have to admire what this guy did with this toilet. And I had to find the video for it to see it in action.
Yeah, we'll play the video. We'll play the video sounds behind this discussion that we have. It's exactly what you think it is. Yeah, this is so much fun, and honestly, the comments in the Reddit are just great. It's like it says Alexa, flush again, or this is the expletive. I'll leave that to the imagination. And this dude is flushing his money down the toilet. This is great. This is this is actually the phrase for activating the home automation. That's really good. Like, you can schedule your flushes now. This is so good.
Yeah, I don't see why you would want this. I think I would probably use it like one time to scare somebody. Like if I had like a guest over or something, I would just flush the toilet for them. What is the actual use case here? I have no idea. A forgetful person that forgets to flush all the time, I guess.
Or you have to do a flush halfway through so you could call it out instead of trying to reach behind you to get to that lever. Because some of them are, positioned in bad spots. You just, so you just yell it out and you get that halfway flush.
There we go. The Flushbot. It exists. It's real. There you go. The only improvement I would make to this I was like, okay, if this was something that was practical, I would put the SwitchBot on the outside and kind of have like maybe a hole or something at the top of the tank for it to run like a little pulley system and wire through to where you could actually get more leverage on it that way and everything.
You know what? It's amazing that we're sitting here and we're wondering why, but we're still thinking about better ways to design
We can
this,
make it better.
right?
Yeah.
The first thing is why, but if we're going to do it, let's do it better.
You just drill a hole through the top of the toilet lid, and that way you can just set it right on top. Bam.
There you go. There's a million ways to build the better Flushbot, I guess. That's what they say.
Coming soon to a Home Depot near you.
Yeah, exactly. Smart toilets. That's the way of the future. And yeah, you don't need to pay for like the Toto toilets, like the smart ones. Those are pretty expensive, like $2,000 or whatever. I mean, they do all sorts of other fancy things for you, but
obviously not flush themselves.
They do that too. Yeah, they will take care of the whole cycle, if you will. This is a little bit. How much are these things? These little Flushbot things. How much are these cost?
Oh, you mean the SwitchBot? You're starting to call it Flushbot.
I think they're like $90 or something. I thought they were pretty expensive.
They're pretty cheap.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I would definitely put it on the outside for that price. Yeah, definitely upgrade.
Yeah, maybe not. I see them on Amazon for $30, so that's not bad.
Oh no, put it on the outside to stop it from rusting, the battery terminals and stuff like that. Keep the moisture out of there. Definitely on the outside, and you can easily change the batteries why are we still designing this thing? We're still designing.
Well, it's easier to service, like you said. And if you're going to do this when you're pre-wiring your house, just make sure you pull in one of these Sophie shade motors down to the behind your toilet, one of the wires in, and that way you can just wire up for anything that may be a smart toilet. This is all good stuff. All good advice, guys. I appreciate it.
We should just start installing those in people's houses and then just randomly flushing their toilets.
Yeah, you could build this into Oversee. I mean, this ties back into every single thing that we've talked about tonight. This is a brilliant thing. So.
I think the one thing I would do if I had this in my toilets was wait till the wife's in the shower and flush all the toilets at once.
Oh yeah, if a criminal mastermind got a hold of too many logins, if they used the TP-Link router and stole everyone's data and got all their logins, they could flush all the toilets in one town at the same time. And you know what happens then? Like,
oh boy,
the reactors go over. Something happens. I don't remember. It was the thing in high school or middle school that we always said. Anyway, if you have any feedback, questions, comments, great ideas for a Flushbot, give us a shout. Email address is feedback@hometech.fm. Or you can go onto the website at hometech.fm/feedback and fill out the online form. Well, guys, that wraps up another fun week of home technology news. Got any big plans? Got any things you guys are? What's next? Gavin, you and I have not done our automated, like the automated things. At least I haven't. I don't know about you. I haven't automated my vent hood over my stove yet.
Yeah, I've been afraid of messing with that. I'm still trying. I have the device. It's like, but it's the last thing you want to be in the middle of, and your wife walks in on you, doing right. Like,
Oh, yeah.
why is the vent hood in a million pieces? Don't worry. So I kind of have that on pause. Lately I've just been working on my security cameras. So I've been working on this little extra, but creating my own models for AI. There's a way I could do it, create my own models, make detection of certain things better in my yard. And that's all integrated into a Blue Iris. So I've been playing with that, gathering a lot of photos over the last little while that I can train.
We're going to have a Blue Iris 101 one of these days. Talk about it. Because it's a really powerful software that has a bajillion settings that I don't think.
Yeah. Let's do it.
What about you, TJ? Anything big for the weekend you're going to try and do?
Nothing on the schedule this weekend, but I've been eyeballing. Last week we talked about the Ava remote and the new speakers, and I've been eyeballing actually one of the remotes. My company became a dealer for Ava actually over the past week, and I have been looking at one of the remotes to purchase because there's just no good remotes anymore. Ever since Logitech kind of went out of business or stopped their remote division, I've pretty much had to resort to using like URC. And if you've used URC in the past, it is just awful. They're not good looking devices. The software is terrible. They work great for what they are and the price that they are. But they're not attractive or easy to use. So I'm excited to get my hands on that. Maybe I'll have that in the next week or two for one of our shows.
Nice. I'd be looking forward to that. Gavin, I was laughing when you were talking about like taking things apart when your wife walks in. Like mine went out of the house today and left me here alone to my own devices. And I got bored of work, so I decided to take her computer apart and swap it out with a new processor that I had. And that was me earlier, just computer parts strewn about, like trying to get the new processor put in before she got back.
You feel the countdown timer, when you're in the middle of it, you're like, okay, I got 3 hours till she's back.
Yeah.
The stress, they don't understand the stress we go through to do these things before they realize.
No, and she won't even care. Like her computer runs, it's a beast now. It runs so fast, but she won't notice. It'll just be like
my wife's computer. My wife's computer sitting behind me with a 3060 in it, graphics card. So just sits idle 99% of the time.
Oh, you need to offload some encoding to that bad boy there.
I'm gonna move it to the Unraid server here in a bit.
Just use the integrated graphics, and no one will notice at all. So, all right, guys. Well, we want to give a big thank you to everyone who supports the show, but especially those who are able to financially support the show through our Patreon page. If you don't know about the Patreon page, head on over to HomeTech.fm/support to learn how you can support HomeTech for as little as $1 a month. Any pledge over $5 a month gets you a big shout out on this show, but every pledge gets you an invite to our private site chat, The Hub, where you and other supporters of the show can gather and talk about shade wiring. That was a fun conversation. It's quite extensive, but really good ideas. I'm really honestly glad that like we have the brain trust we have in there, where people can say, hey, if you guys haven't seen this, use this. And no, I've done this for years and hadn't seen that wire. Like, that's amazing. So there you go. Yeah. Anyway, if you want to help out the show but can't support financially, totally understand. Just appreciate a 5-star review on iTunes or a positive rating in the podcast app of your choice. This wraps up another week in home technology. From everyone here, have a great weekend, and we will see you next week.
Take care.
Bye-bye.